Discover the amazing moment a struggling woman pleaded with a mafia leader to transform her life. Maria's feet ached as she walked home, the unforgiving asphalt sending vibrations through her sore muscles. Double shifts at Jill's diner and the grocery store felt like an endless cycle of work, exhaustion, and worry. The weight of poverty clung to her as tightly as her worn-out purse. Inside were all the essentials and an aching reminder of her two children, sleeping in their tiny room, oblivious to the world's harsher realities. Every step she took echoed with self-doubt. Was she doing enough? But that night, a chill in the air pulled her senses sharp. She hesitated as she approached the dimly lit alley, a place she wouldn't normally consider. Desperation surged within her. She had heard whispers about Tony, the local mafia leader with a reputation that gripped the town with fear. Why was she even contemplating this? Yet the thought of an escape flickered in her mind, whispering sweet promises of a better life. As she leaned against the cold brick wall, her heart raced. The shadows deepened as Tony emerged from the haze of dim light, his presence commanding and intimidating. Maria's instincts screamed at her to run, but she fought the impulse. She knew she had to confront her fears or be resigned to this life forever. "Tony, I need help," she stammered, the tremor in her voice betraying her fierce desire to be brave. "I have 2 kids, and I don't know how I'm going to make it. I'm drowning here." Tony regarded her with an unreadable gaze, something stirring in his dark eyes. "Why would I help you?" It was a challenge, more than a question. The air thickened with tension, stifling her resolve. What had she done? Could she really trust this man whose very reputation brought people to their knees? Before they could linger on the precarious precipice of this moment, Maria felt urgency wash over her. "I don't want anything for myself, just for my children. I'd do anything." The words came out almost as a whisper, the weight of her vulnerability hanging between them like a fragile thread. Yet, deep down, an internal battle waged. Was she bargaining her morals for survival? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. In that brief intermission, a rush of conflicting emotions gripped her. Hope danced dangerously alongside fear. Then, against the backdrop of struggling streetlights, a thought pierced through in her mind. Just before her estranged father had fallen, their family once held power. He had ties to Tony's family. Could this be her way forward? An alliance forged in the murky waters of their shared past? Maria's breath quickened as she recalled her father's downfall, rage and sadness colliding within her. To connect with the shadow of her lineage felt like a betrayal and a lifeline all at once. Standing there in the alley, she wrestled with the implications. Could her father's legacy pave the way out, or would it bind her deeper into a world she despised? As she faced Tony, each moment vibrated with tension, her plea hanging in the air unanswered. The gamble she had taken weighed heavily. The choice could either free or imprison them both. What had she started? The silence in the alley wrapped around Maria like a suffocating blanket, her heart drumming in her chest. Each second stretched on endlessly as she stood before Tony, the dark reality of her choices gnawing at her resolve. What could she offer this man who operated comfortably in the shadows? She needed to harness any strength left in her, using each ounce of her desperation to fuel her courage. "I have something important," she finally mustered, her voice steadier than she felt. "Something that could help you." The admission ignited a flicker of intrigue in Tony's gaze, sharp like a knife's edge glinting under a weak streetlight. He leaned in closer as if to catch every word, his eyes narrowing with curiosity. "What do you know?" he asked, the threat of his voice a reminder of the perilous game they were playing. In that moment, Maria faced the abyss of her decision. Could she manipulate the situation in her favor? Instinctively, she understood that revealing her connection to his family was both a risk and an opportunity. "My father used to work for your family," she disclosed, choking slightly on the truth that hung there between them. "He had a reputation, connections, knowledge, and I need to survive." A sudden flash of defiance surged through her. For too long, she had cast herself as the desperate pawn in someone else's game. What if she flipped the script? Tony's expression shifted imperceptibly, a mask of intrigue settling over his features. "And what makes you think I'd be interested in a ghost?" His skepticism was palpable, yet Maria dared to press on, her words laced with determination. "Because I know the industry," she asserted, awakening a dormant confidence within her. "I know where supplies are being funneled, where unwitting store owners are being played like chess pieces." Her mind began to strategize, digging up memories of overheard conversations and sidewalk dealings that had punctuated her youth. Perhaps this avenue led to something more, an invigorating sense of purpose. "You think your father's legacy means anything now?" he challenged, but she could see the gears turning behind his eyes, a flickering curiosity taking hold. "Why not?" she countered quickly. "It's a rough world out there. The same names still run it. You have a chance to reclaim what was once yours." For a moment, they both stood bathed in the dim light, the air taut between them. Unspoken possibilities dangled in the silence, a precarious balance of opportunity shrouded in danger. Tony contemplated her words. A dance of power began weaving with uncertainty. Still, an unsettling thought nagged at her with relentless persistence. If she were to step into this world, it wouldn't just be about survival anymore. It would blur the lines of right and wrong, motherhood and ambition, mercy and manipulation. Was she ready to trade her morals for a chance to fortify her family's future? As she watched Tony, a decision brewed within her. What was she willing to sacrifice for the sake of her children? The notion coiled tightly around her, wrapping around her heart with a vice-like grip. Perhaps her fear could transform into something useful, powerful enough to reshape her destiny. "Let's talk business then. Your father's legacy could be the ticket we need." The challenge was laid bare before them. An open road laced with potential, danger, and the risk of losing oneself along the way. What would occur next? Would Maria secure an unexpected ally, or fortify the bonds of her own imprisonment? Just as she sensed a shift in Tony's demeanor, a streetlight flickered overhead, illuminating the uncertainty of their impending alliance. In that moment, she understood that there was no turning back. She had summoned a force now intertwined with her fate. Would she emerge transformed, or would the shadows consume her? The choice loomed ahead, a chiseled fork in the road ripped from her dreams. With every heartbeat, Maria felt the weight of impending conflict. Confidence was her only armor. The stakes were rising dramatically, but Maria also harbored secret strength. What revelations lay hidden within her past that could provide her a path through the chaos? Maria felt the air shift as Tony's expression flickered between suspicion and contemplation. The tension stretched taut, vibrating with unsaid promises and threats. The alley, shrouded in shadow, suddenly felt much more intimate, like a small world where she and Tony were the sole players in an unpredictable game. This was her moment to seize the initiative. She could either retreat into the shadows of her struggles or forge ahead into the dangerous unknown. "Look," she said, grasping the edge of her resolve. "I know how your family operates. I know the network, the insiders. My father was more than just an employee. He was integral to your family's operations. He always believed in loyalty and strategic partnerships." Adrenaline surged through her veins as she spoke, waking the remnants of the girl she used to be. Not the timid woman burdened by fear, but someone who could wield her knowledge like a weapon. "Loyalty," Tony scoffed, obviously skeptical. "In this world, you're either useful or disposable." The harsh truth stung her, but it also fueled her determination. She wasn't here to beg for scraps. She was here to make an impression. Then let's make me useful, she shot back, feeling the boldness reverberate within her. If she was to play this game, it wasn't simply about survival anymore. It was about claiming her space. I can help you take control of the market again. I can help you reclaim your father's influence. For the first time, Tony tilted his head, curiosity mingling with calculation. And why should I trust you? You think I haven't dealt with your type before? Looking to get a foot in the door, only to vanish when the going gets tough? She could see the walls he built around himself, the fortress constructed of past betrayals and hardened resolve. Her instincts sharpened. This wasn't merely about offering information. It was about forming a bond, creating a dichotomy that both frightened and excited her. Because, she lowered her voice, letting vulnerability seep through. Unlike others, I have nothing to lose. I'm not doing this for me. It's about my children. Everything I've endured has prepared me to fight, to strategize, but I need an ally who understands this world. She felt her heart race as she laid it all out, her honesty cutting through the fog like a beacon. His eyes narrowed, weighing her sincerity against his skepticism. Silence engulfed them for a moment, both examining the truth behind the unspoken words. Was there potential for trust here? An unlikely connection they could navigate amidst the dangers that lurked in the background? All right, he finally replied, but with a calculating grin. Let's see what you can offer. But tread carefully, Maria. In my world, failure has consequences. Each word ignited a spark within her. She had crossed the threshold of dependency. Now she could either empower herself or fall victim to the machinations of the very world she sought to control. Could she craft a new identity here, not just as a mother desperate to protect her children, but as a strategist in the game of power and manipulation? As they delved deeper into discussions of territory and networks, Maria felt something she hadn't in a long time, a surge of purpose accompanying her decisions. The chaos surrounding them might consume her, but for the first time, she saw a glimpse of a future where she held agency. However, the shadows loomed heavy once more, the daunting realization that every choice came with sacrifices, tugging at her consciousness. The intricacies of this new world presented moral dilemmas that haunted her. Would she always remain true to her intentions, or would ambition eclipse her better nature? Just as the conversation began to evolve, a scuffle erupted outside the alley, bringing a sudden chill to the air. Tony's demeanor shifted immediately, his interest now focused beyond them. Sounds like trouble, he murmured, assessing the chaos. Maria's heart raced again, not merely from the adrenaline, but from the understanding that danger was closing in. Would her alliance with him shield her, or would it unleash a new wave of peril? Her gut clenched with uncertainty as she watched his every move, praying her instincts would guide her through the impending storm. This moment could define her trajectory in ways she couldn't predict, and she realized, no matter how precarious, she needed to be ready to confront whatever danger lay ahead. The dance of survival had only just begun, and Maria felt the pulse of fate drawing closer. The alley whispered of betrayal and loyalty, and her thoughts turned inward. Would she possess the cunning and strength required to survive this dangerous game? The next move would be critical, and all of it hinged on her choices weaving a path through the chaos. Maria's resolve hardened. She would not let fear dictate her path any longer. The question lingering at the edges of her mind tickled her subconscious. How far was she willing to go to protect her newfound power? Maria's heart thudded as she watched Tony's expression shift into a mask of professional detachment. The chaotic sounds outside intensified, puncturing the thin veil of their negotiation with a new urgency. Every instinct screamed at her to remain vigilant, her mind racing through potential outcomes, guarantees of both safety and peril. She tightened her grip on her emotions, grounding herself in the reality that this was her chance to rise above her past. She'd spent far too long as a mere survivor, too afraid to seize the opportunities life offered. Now, within the disarray of the alley and the uncertainty of her alliance, she felt an unfamiliar energy bubbling to the surface, a new determination fueling her resolve. "Let's make a plan," she suggested, pulling her thoughts together, pushing her anxiety aside. "You need to stabilize your influence, and I can be your eyes and ears, your strategist." Tony's gaze sharpened, sparking recognition of her determination. "And what exactly do you propose? You know nothing of this world, Maria. Your father, his connections may be dead, and you've spent years being a mother, not a player on the board." Touché, but she couldn't let doubt settle back in. "I've watched. I've learned through the years, understanding the layers beneath their smiles and the betrayal beneath loyalty. I know how to read intentions. If you give me the chance, I can navigate the landscape for you." For a fleeting moment, she regretted revealing her knowledge. A crack opened in her vulnerability, exposing the pain and misery she'd endured, but she steeled herself against it. Perhaps her understanding of betrayal was a weapon that could forge an alliance rather than doom it. His brow furrowed in thought, and for the first time, there was a hint of interest behind his reticence. "Speak," he commanded, and Maria began laying out her vision, how she could infiltrate rival networks, gather information, and even play the field within circles that had previously seemed out of reach. Every word she spoke fueled her growing confidence. The ideas flowed like Otis, electricity through her veins. She was not just speaking of strategy, she was rediscovering a version of herself that had been buried under years of fear and submission. Each plan strengthened her identity, forging a woman ready to reclaim her agency in this perilous world. Yet, lurking in the corners of her mind was a nagging concern. In the pursuit of power, what would become of her ethics? How far might she have to bend or break her values to secure a position in this dangerous game? Tony's silence stretched on, and she watched as calculations danced in his mind. Their deal could solidify her foothold, but it could just as easily undo everything she sought to protect. The scuffle outside escalated, a reminder of the violence that could erupt at any moment, urging her to stand strong in this fragile alliance. Finally, he spoke, his voice low and steady. "You want to play dangerous games, Maria. You better know the rules, or be ready to lose everything." "Then let's define those rules," she replied firmly, her heart racing at the realization of what lay ahead. They were poised on an edge, and her willingness to dive into this perilous plunge echoed through her thoughts, aligning with her relentless desire to safeguard her children. Just as Tony began outlining the next steps, a figure appeared at the mouth of the alley, a shadowy silhouette that sent a ripple of dread through her. Was this a rival? An enemy? The answer loomed closer, threatening to eclipse their nascent accord. Her anxiety morphed into instinct as the figure advanced, eyes locked on Tony. In that heartbeat, Maria understood the gravity of the decision she faced. This was her moment to test her resolve, to stand by her burgeoning alliance, or flee back into a life of obscurity and fear. As the figure stepped into the light, she felt a surge of unexpected courage pull her to the front. Would she emerge from this encounter stronger, or would she shatter under the weight of uncertainty? The game was about to intensify, and Maria found herself at a crossroads, ready to confront the unexpected challenges ahead. Would she embrace the chaos, or run from the shadows that threatened to overtake her? The moment had arrived. It was time to make her move. Maria squinted against the harsh glow of the alley's light, her heart racing with each step the figure took toward them. The scruffy silhouette morphed into a recognizable shape, and a flicker of recognition sparked. It was Dominic, a known associate of Tony's, but also someone who had a shady reputation. A mixture of relief and trepidation twisted in her gut as she prepared for their encounter. "Dominic," Tony muttered, visibly unsettled. The man stepped closer, his lips curling into a smirk that revealed too much confidence. "Thought I might find you here, Tony." He cast his gaze over Maria, sizing her up. "And who's the new player?" "She's with me," Tony stated, his tone leaving no room for argument. Yet, Maria could sense the invisible wall of scrutiny Dominic erected around their fragile alliance. But does she know how to play? Dominic asked, glancing sideways at Tony. This isn't a playground, sweetheart. His eyes glinted with suspicion, challenging her resolve. Maria inhaled sharply, ready to defend her worth. Every move you make is a dance with danger, she answered, stepping forward to claim the space that felt oddly suffocating. I might not be part of your inner circle yet, but I won't cower in the shadows. I offer my insights and connections, a fresh perspective. Dominic raised an eyebrow, intrigued but dismissive. Fresh perspective? That's cute. Around here, it's about results, and your past hardly screams results. Though his words were laced with derision, they also struck a nerve of determination within her. Everyone has a past, she snapped back, anger igniting a fire she hadn't anticipated. You can't judge a book by its cover. I've lived every page of my life, absorbing lessons and strategies that could serve us well in this unstable environment. Tony remained silent, observing but not interjecting. Could he see the transformation happening right before his eyes? Maria liked to think she was gaining traction in this world of trust and betrayal, even if it meant brutal confrontations. Dominic chuckled, crossing his arms, as if this was merely entertainment for him. Let's say I'm intrigued. What do you propose, strategist? In that moment, Maria realized this was her opportunity not only to prove her mettle to Tony, but also to clarify her position in this high-stakes game. I've spent years understanding people's motivations, not just their words. I can cultivate relationships that reveal strengths and vulnerabilities, twisting the narrative to benefit us. Dominic leaned closer, as if her intense words had finally piqued his genuine interest. And how do you propose you gain their trust when they know your name carries the weight of failure? I start fresh, she insisted, grounding herself in her growing confidence. I leverage connections from the past that no one suspects I still have. If you think I'll bend under pressure, you clearly underestimate me. I won't just survive, I'll become a strategist, a player, and a force they reckon with. Tony's expression shifted, and beneath the exterior of aggression, Maria could read the simmering respect. This was her moment, but the stakes were high. Would Dominic take her seriously? Dominic's smirk faded slightly, replaced by contemplative scrutiny. You're bold, I'll give you that. But remember, boldness with wisdom leads to ruin. Maria felt his challenge settle over her like a fog. Then let's make this work, Dominic. I'm ready to prove that I belong, and I won't back down from that challenge. A silence enveloped the alley as tension mounted, heavy like a storm cloud. Dominic stepped back slightly, appearing thoughtful, possibly even impressed. All right, I'll give you a chance, but it won't be easy. If you can deliver, I'll help anchor you in the circles you need. She nodded, adrenaline surging through her body. Each moment here was a test. This was no longer simply about survival. It was about power, respect, and redefining her identity. As the exchange settled into uneasy agreement, a bell chimed faintly in the distance, reminding her of earlier chaos outside. But this time, it felt more welcoming, a sign that she was moving toward purpose rather than remaining a mere observer. Just as relief began to wash over her, a distant shout broke the stillness, resonating like an omen. Maria's pulse quickened again. What was that? Something stirred in Dominic's expression, a mix of apprehension and readiness. Looks like your real test begins now. Whatever's out there, it's coming our way. The shadows lurked closer around them, hinting at tumultuous storms ahead. Maria understood she was no longer just navigating the unpredictable tides. She was harnessing them. The moment had shifted, and she sensed the ultimate crossroads approaching. Would she hold her ground or be swept away in the unfolding chaos? Each decision carried weight, and the time had come to embody the strategist she claimed to be. Yet, as the tension filled the space, she couldn't shake the thought. Was she truly prepared for the darkness that lay ahead? The echo of that distant shout lingered in Maria's mind as she surveyed the alley around her. The balance of power now felt fragile, teetering between chaos and opportunity. She sensed it. This was the moment where she would either stand tall as a player in this treacherous game or succumb to her past. Dominic's gaze remained fixed on the street beyond, the shadows dancing like specters at the edge of their conversation. Each second felt suspended, her heart racing as she pondered her next move. How could she navigate this burgeoning alliance while asserting her worth? Tony observed, his presence looming like an anchor. She stole a glance at him, searching for any sign of encouragement or doubt. There, beneath his hardened exterior, she noticed a flicker of interest. Maybe he believed in her more than he let on. But Dominic was a different beast, a calculating player filled with skepticism. He would not easily be swayed by her bravado. "Listen closely, Maria," Dominic said, his tone shifting from casual to commanding. "If you're going to collaborate with me, know this: every connection is a double-edged sword. How you handle your relationships, each one will either elevate you or bring you crashing down. Understand the stakes." Those words anchored themselves in her mind. He wasn't merely a threat. He was a mentor hidden behind layers of cynicism. She needed to extract those lessons while guarding herself against his manipulation. "I get it, Dominic," she replied, infusing her voice with steadiness. "Every connection has the potential to burn bridges or build them. I want to learn how to navigate these waters, but I also want to be trusted, not feared." A slight smirk returned to Dominic's lips, but it wasn't entirely unfriendly.
"Trust is earned, not given. You've got to show you can bring something to the table. We have a shipment coming in, a big one. If you handle that right, you might just find your footing." The weight of the challenge bore down on her, excitement stirring in her chest. This was it, her first real task since stepping into this dizzying world. Yet doubt gnawed at her. Had she truly prepared for this? "I'll do everything I can," she said, firming her resolve. "What's my role?" Dominic leaned back, his arms crossed, eyes glinting with appraisal. "Get in touch with the old contacts you bragged about. Use them. Gather intel. People forget things when they think they're out of the game. And if you screw this up, well, let's just say it wouldn't end well for you." The implications were profound, and trust in this shadowy network was as thin as ice. Recollections of her past flooded her mind, missed opportunities due to fear, insecurities dictating decisions. She shook her head to clear it, squashing those remnants of doubt. "Then I'll reach out," Maria affirmed, "but I'll need all the background information on this shipment." Dominic nodded, clearly pleased but not wholly convinced. "You're ambitious. I can respect that. But remember, ambition can be treacherous. Trust the right people, learn the rhythm of the game, and never hesitate to protect yourself." He shifted back into the shadows, an unpredictable ally. As Maria absorbed his words, a sense of exhilaration surged through her. She was no longer just an observer in the corridors of power. The real work began now, and she couldn't falter. As the alley around her gradually came alive with the night, her mind raced through strategies, connections she could rekindle, and intel she must gather without drawing suspicion. But just as she began to strategize her next move, another shout erupted from around the corner. A warning, perhaps? Her heart pounded as urgency washed over her. "Stay sharp," Dominic instructed, his voice low. "Whatever is coming might change everything." Fear threaded through her veins, yet she relished the intensity. The stakes weren't merely about survival anymore. They were about regaining her identity, reclaiming her place. The upcoming challenge wouldn't just test her, it would carve her into something new. As she prepared to act, a thought crossed her mind. What if she could not only redefine herself, but also dismantle the shackles of her past? The night deepened, and shadows grew longer, hinting at the thrumming chaos ahead. With each breath, she knew the time had come to face the unknown. Would she successfully leverage her connections and turn this tumultuous chance into her greatest leap forward? Or would she fall prey to the overwhelming currents of this environment? Determined, she stepped into the darkness, ready to confront her fears. But would she emerge transformed? Or would the impending chaos swallow her whole? Maria walked briskly through the unfamiliar streets, her heart pulsating with a blend of fear and excitement. Step resonated with the echo of Dominic's warning, the way a drumbeat might propel an army into battle. She tugged at the hem of her jacket, a feeble attempt to shield herself from the unsettling chill in the air. The urgency to act weighed heavily on her, and she felt the shadows lengthening behind her as if they were sentinels guarding an unseen path toward her future. Yes, she had contacts, old connections from a life she had tried hard to leave behind. The mere thought of reaching out to them was suffused with trepidation. They were as likely to remember her with disdain as with anything else. Yet this was her moment. She would either be molded by the fear of failure or shaped into someone new by her resolve. The first name that surfaced in her mind was Rainer, a former associate from her past who had often swung between loyalty and self-preservation. They had parted on shaky terms, mostly due to her inability to decisively anchor herself in their murky world. She could sense his reluctance from miles away. Coaxing him into help would be no easy task. With each step towards his old haunt, she wrestled with her doubts. What if he turned her away? What if he didn't remember her at all? The anticipated conversation loomed like a specter, and she felt the undercurrent of her old self, uncertain and self-doubting, trying to claw its way back. But through the turbulence of her thoughts flickered something else, unrelenting strength. Not just her ambition to survive, but a desperation to thrive against the odds. As she approached the bar, a low-key establishment wrapped in dim lighting and thick cigarette smoke, anxiety swelled within her. She hesitated for a moment, glancing at her reflection in the glass window. The woman staring back was determined but hesitant. Her eyes told a story of struggle and hope, a narrative that could either sink into obscurity or rise defiantly to claim its place. She pushed the door open, the familiar jingle cutting through the noise within. Instantly, the atmosphere enveloped her. The warmth rubbed against her like a gentle hand, beckoning her to inside. The patrons were a mix of old and young, all seeming like pieces of a puzzle that had managed to fit together despite their jagged edges. Maria's gaze swept the room until it landed on a familiar figure tucked away at a table in the corner, swirling a glass of whiskey. Rainer hadn't changed much. He looked older. The years had etched deeper lines around his eyes, but the flicker of his former charisma still glimmered beneath the weight of time. Approaching him felt like preparing to dive into a lake riddled with unseen currents. She made her way through the cramped space, adrenaline flooding her veins as she steeled herself for what came next. "Rainer," she called, her voice steady despite the storm inside her. He looked up, surprise mingled with skepticism flashing across his face. "Maria? Is that you?" His tone oscillated between curiosity and suspicion. "Yes, it's me. I need to talk." She sat down, the chair creaking beneath her as if anticipating the weight of the conversation ahead. Her heart raced as she prepared to lay out her intentions, her pulse a steady metronome against the silence that hung between them. Their subsequent dialogue was fraught with tension as she recounted her current situation and the ultimatum she faced. Rainer listened, skepticism radiating from him, but flickering moments of interest breaking through. The stakes were high. She could feel Dominic's shadow hovering over their exchange, a reminder of her precarious footing. "Why should I help you?" Rainer's voice was low, but the challenge in his eyes sent a shiver down her spine. "Because I can provide you information. Because I've changed. I'm no longer that scared girl who couldn't hold her ground." Each word was infused with the determination to break free from the chains of her past. A calculating look washed over his face as he leaned back, arms crossed, the mask of the negotiator slipping into place. Maria had struck a nerve. If he saw the potential in her, perhaps she wouldn't merely be reaching out for the support of an old friend, but forging a new bond based on mutual benefit. The dialogue was fraught, with her pressing for what she needed, while Raynor weighed every word she spoke. The contours of trust started to reshape, but one crucial piece remained missing. What guarantee do I have that you won't just vanish again? His question forced her to confront her own fears. I'm not running this time. I'm here to stay. As their conversation progressed, each exchange uncovered a glimmer of confidence that Maria had nearly forgotten existed within her. But the stakes remained perilous, teetering on the edge of directly jeopardizing her newfound ambition. Just when she thought she could break through his last barrier, the atmosphere shifted abruptly, tension snapping like a taut string as a group of unfamiliar faces moved to intercept their conversation. "Guess you're not as discreet as you thought, Maria." The voice cut through the haze, each syllable dripping with hostility. Maria's heart plunged into her stomach. The shadows that once felt like allies now threatened to engulf her, reminding her that the past is never truly behind you. She turned, adrenaline surging, as she prepared herself to face this next confrontation, uncertainty swirling through her veins. This was not just about reclaiming her identity. It was about surviving the revelation that could swallow her whole. Would she be able to consolidate her newfound strength against old adversaries, or would she falter beneath the weight of her unresolved past? Maria's gaze locked onto the newcomers, a trio that exuded an air of aggression. Its leader, a man with a jagged scar tracing his jawline, wore a predatory grin that promised trouble. They had a history, though not a personal one, and that made her nerves dance with both fear and determination. "Look who's back in town," he taunted, leaning closer, his condescending tone less an introduction and more a threat. The bar's familiar warmth suddenly felt constricting, the walls closing in, as if the space conspired against her. "Not interested in a reunion, Miles. I came here for business." Maria squared her shoulders, letting the adrenaline harden her resolve. "Business? With Raynor?" His laughter reverberated, cutting through the weary laughter of patrons. It was a mockery of her aspirations. "You always did have a flair for the dramatic." Raynor's expression shifted, irritation etched across his face. But Maria didn't waver. The stakes had risen, and she was painfully aware that every moment this confrontation lingered would expose the vulnerable place she found herself in, not just physically, but mentally. "You don't know what you're stepping into, Maria," Miles continued, his voice slick with menace. "You think you can waltz back in and cut deals you've never been capable of?" Her heart thudded loudly, echoing the rhythm of her escalating fear, but she repackaged it into a steely fortitude. "I can, and I will. Walk away while you can. I've learned a thing or two since I was last here." A sinister glint sparked in Miles's eyes. "And what exactly have you learned? That you can run from your past, but never escape it?" The truth hung uncomfortably between them. Behind the bravado and famed confidence, she felt the pangs of doubt. Could she really navigate this confrontation? "I'm not running anymore." Her voice, a quiet ember, seemed to fan into a flame. "I'm ready to own my choices and learn from my mistakes, starting right now." "Brave words for someone who ran away when things got tough," he sneered, stepping closer, invading her space. This was when the past bared its teeth, and she had to confront the implications of his words. "Things got tough because I lacked direction. That's changed," Maria countered, her voice gaining strength. "I've spent enough time hiding from my past to know now what I want." Raynor shifted slightly, his posture subtly promising support without overtly siding with her. Was he beginning to see her strength as a means to fortify his own interests? "Let's see if you can convince me you're more than just talk," Miles leered, but the challenge now felt like an invitation, a way to swiftly navigate through confrontation and uncertainty. Slipping back into a competitive mindset, she planned her next words. "I've gathered information on Dominic and his operations. Knowledge, real knowledge, can change the game. Help me, and we can reshape the balance of power." Miles paused, interest flickering in his eyes. The predator was momentarily distracted by the scent of potential advantage. She had given herself the chance to pivot the power play before it fully escalated. "But you're still caught up in the shadows," he replied, doubt distorting the edge of his confidence. "What makes you think you can wield that information against someone like Dominic?" "Because I'm no longer just a pawn. I can strategize and I can fight back." Each word dripped with the essence of her transformation. She stood taller, emboldened, as conviction shimmered beyond the fear. The room had quieted, all eyes flicking between her and Miles. Her heart raced with a mix of exhilaration and terror. The realization surfaced. This was not merely about overriding fear, but redefining who she was and who she could sway to her side. "All right," he finally conceded, but his tone hinted at numerous conditions stringing their tentative alliance. "I'll bite, but make no mistake, Maria, betray me and you won't get a second chance." "You'll find I'm steadfast," she replied, her voice now fully committed. Confidence surged through her, igniting the adrenaline that had initially frozen her resolve. With their onlookers still waiting, the stakes felt precarious yet undeniably electrifying. She had crossed one threshold, but new challenges loomed on the horizon. This was more than a deal. It was a chance at true reinvention, a potential reclamation of her former self, burdened yet fiercely resolved. Just as a flicker of clarity entered her mind regarding her next move, the bar's entrance creaked open again, and in walked another figure from her past, a wild card that could either bolster her prospects or ruin everything. "Remember, Maria," Raynor whispered under his breath as tension electrified the air, "you can never really step away from this world." Uncertainty knotted in her stomach as she turned to face whatever awaited her. Would she continue to sharpen her newfound wit, or would she fracture before this unexpected confrontation? The resolution she felt fizzled at the edges, rapidly replaced with the edge of total chaos. A chill swept over Maria as the figure emerged from the shadows of the entrance, carving a silhouette that was all too familiar. It was Dominic, a man shrouded in layers of both charisma and ruthlessness, an embodiment of the life she had sought to escape. Her breath caught in her throat as memories of their previous encounters surged through her, promises made and alliances forged in the murky depths of the underworld. "Look who we have here," he called out, his voice smooth but laced with a tension that prickled at the back of her neck. "Our little phoenix has returned, but I'd wager you're still a little scorched around the edges." In that moment, fear gripped her heart. There was an undeniable truth in his words. She had been scorched by failures and misjudgments, and while she felt the embers of growth within her, they still flickered weakly against his gaze. Yet amidst the turmoil, she felt the undercurrents of her own resolve. "Don't underestimate me, Dominic," she found herself saying, the words tumbling out with unexpected strength. "I've learned that the past doesn't dictate my future. I'm ready to redefine my role in this world." His laughter echoed, humor laced with disdain, scraping against her determination. "And what exactly do you think that means? Surely you've realized your place in this game?" Every muscle in her body tensed, feeling the stakes of this confrontation swell. This was not merely about survival or past mistakes. It was about seizing control over her narrative. No longer a pawn, she had designs to become a player. "I came here for a reason," she asserted, eyes locking into his. "I have information that could shift balances. I'm not alone in this anymore. I have resources, and I'm ready to leverage them." The flicker of curiosity ignited in his eyes momentarily stifled the mockery. "And what makes you think I'd trust you? You left, abandoned everything when the heat intensified." "I didn't abandon anything," she countered swiftly, each word infused with a growing urgency. "I left to come back with a purpose. The distance was only a bridge to my rebirth."
Dominic leaned back, crossing his arms over his chest, calculating. You still think you can play both sides? This isn't a game for the faint-hearted. It demands clarity and conviction, both of which you've shown to lack. With that, an unsettling realization sunk in deeper. He was dissecting her, peeling away at her insecurities like layers off an onion. Each word was a reminder of old doubts that shadowed her steps. But rather than retreating from the scrutiny, she took a step closer, wanting to draw him into her sphere of newfound confidence. No, Dominic, it's you who's trapped by the past, Maria declared, her voice steadily gaining conviction. You think you own this world, but I can see the cracks in your foundation. The game is evolving, and I can evolve with it. Bold, he remarked, amusement dancing in his tone. But boldness can also get you killed. Maybe, but it can also lead to victory, she shot back, the fire inside her growing hotter. This wasn't the time for hesitance. She was no longer the woman who ran away. Dominic's gaze sharpened, processing her words as though calculating each potential outcome. The whole bar seemed to hold its breath, wrapped in the tension of their standoff. Maria stood resolute. The atmosphere vibrated with her newfound determination. This was the pivotal moment where failure and success teetered on the same edge, and she had the choice to leap forth or fall back. I'm proposing an alliance, Dominic. Your way of doing things is outdated. Let me help you embrace a new strategy, one that embraces adaptation rather than threats, she urged, her heart racing with each calculated word. He regarded her, weighing her proposal like a finely balanced scale. She could sense the shift. Perhaps, just perhaps, she was edging toward a metamorphosis beyond her own understanding. Dominic ultimately chuckled, a mix of intrigue and incredulity flaring in his expression. You're either bold or foolish, Maria, but the stakes just got a lot higher. As the challenge hung in the air, the ground beneath her felt both precariously unstable and exhilaratingly liberating. In one short moment, Maria's trajectory had shifted, setting a new course toward a confrontation that would either elevate her or plunge her back into the chaos she sought to escape. A decision loomed before her. Could she risk it all for the possibility of transformation, or would she slip back into obscurity under the weight of her own doubts? The tension crystallized into action, and she prepared to negotiate more than just her future, and she knew it might cost her everything. Just as she steadied herself for the response that could alter everything, a sharp voice cut through the hum, a reminder that there were even darker currents at play. Ready to swim with the sharks, Maria? Or should I remind you of what happens to those who tread water too long? This was the moment where her past, her limits, and her fears collided. Would she drown in fear, or would she emerge triumphant in the turbulent waters ahead? The air crackled with tension as Maria stood before Dominic, holding her ground amid a backdrop of long-standing animosities and uncharted ambitions. The shadows of her past loomed, yet she felt something shift within her, a resolve that had been fortified through hardship and desperation. She was not the frightened woman who once cowered under threats. She was a phoenix preparing for flight. Let me prove my worth, she urged, allowing the weight of her determination to fill the space between them. The charged atmosphere felt alive, swirling with possibilities. I can help reshape this landscape. Dominic studied her with narrowed eyes, skepticism lingering, but curiosity also danced in his gaze. And why should I trust you? You've gambled before and lost. I learned from those mistakes, Maria replied with steely confidence. I learned that hiding from the past only prolongs the cycle. I'm stepping into the light now, ready to confront whatever comes my way. The bar seemed to hold its breath as the onlookers shifted in anticipation, absorbing the unfolding drama. Maria felt her pulse quicken, but the adrenaline surged beneath the fear, sharpening her senses. This was the exact moment for which she had prepared, to reclaim her narrative and assert her place within this chaotic world. All right, Dominic finally conceded, his tone shifting from derision to something more diplomatic, though the shadows of doubt still clouded his expression. Prove to me that you're not just all talk. A sense of thrill coursed through her. She was finally being afforded a chance to reclaim her position, a chance that not only meant survival, but also recognition of her potential. We have a shipment coming in. I can help you position yourself strategically. With my intel, we can control the narrative. Dominic inclined his head, still wary but intrigued enough to give her a crack. Your past can either be your stepping stone or your downfall. Choose wisely. With renewed vigor, Maria turned her focus outward, alternative strategies cascading through her mind. She could gather information, establish connections, and fortify a new identity that transcended her limitations. This was not only about reclaiming her past. It was about harnessing the power of her experiences to carve a place for herself in a world she had once feared. As their conversation unfolded, new alliances became crystallized, and with each shared insight, Maria felt her confidence expand. Here was an opportunity to not merely function in this underworld, but to thrive, finding power within her purpose. She began to sketch the intricate outlines of her plan, her voice steadier, her vision sharper. But shadows loomed. The memory of her children and the promise she made to protect them echoed loudly in her mind. If she was to embark on this path, then she needed to wield her knowledge with precision and care. With this thought anchoring her resolve, she scanned the room, understanding that the people she surrounded herself with would be the indicators of her success or peril. Dominic watched her, a flicker of respect threading through his scrutiny. "You're not a ghost of your past. You've transformed," he acknowledged. The words resonated with the hum of validation, and she embraced them fully. As the conversation redirected toward action plans, a chain of confidence coursed through her. She was rerouting once unassailable fears into unshakable determination. It was time to banish trepidation. She would channel her past struggles into a force that would empower her journey ahead. "Let's get started," she stated firmly. "I'll leverage all my resources and contacts. Let this be the dawn of something new." With the stakes anchored higher than ever, Maria felt a sense of exhilaration surge within her. This was not merely an attempt to survive her circumstances, but to convert adversity into action, to become a strategist, an architect of her fate rather than a mere pawn. With each decisive movement, she laid the groundwork for an alliance built on mutual benefit, unveiling an uncharted path forward. Around her, the expectations shifted, and perceived roles began to warp. In leaving behind the shackles of doubt, she was embracing transformation in its purest form. As if sensing her resolve, the tension in the bar eased slightly, Dominic's demeanor uncomfortable perhaps, but receptive. "Very well," he said, a suitable approximation of respect seeping into his voice. "Let's see if this new path holds merit." The seeds of change had been planted, and Maria felt the surge of fulfillment wash over her. The dialectic tensions between her past and present were slowly melding, constructing a future she could reclaim. This was just the beginning of a journey entrenched in ambition, one where success would come from proving her worth not through manipulation, but integrity. Each choice foreshadowed a contribution to her burgeoning identity, a mother, a strategist, and a force to be reckoned with. She would diligently navigate the treacherous waters ahead, carving alliances, forging trust, and decisively securing a legacy that would resonate beyond shadows. As the bar murmured and the shadows retreated, Maria felt an invigorating clarity descend upon her. She was here not just to survive, but to thrive, evolving into her best self, a culmination of resilience and capability, confident in her ability to transform her reality. This was her ascent, the moment she had waited for, the catalyst for change, and her unwavering pledge to rise above fear had finally borne fruit. Now was the time to advocate for herself, to embody her newfound strength and purpose. The climb was steep and fraught with uncertainty, but Maria no longer clung to fear. She was tired of dwelling in the constraints of the past, ready now to reclaim her narrative. With one last glance at Dominic, an ally forged in shared resilience, she stepped forward, ready to confront the unknown fully and armed with the promise of her own extraordinary potential. This was her moment, and she was just getting started. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.